living in a world where people care for one another, and the importance of feeling connected that are founded in the earliest years of our lives.
In a world where genuine care and connection often seem scarce, the story of Edith Turner reminds us of the quiet lives that unfold behind the scenes, far from the public eye. Kate Middleton never hesitated when she brought Edith into the royal household years ago. Edith was the kind of person who didn't demand notice, soft-spoken, dependable, and endlessly patient. She simply kept the palace running smoothly without fanfare or fuss. Over time, Edith became more than just a housekeeper. She was a steady presence within the towering walls of Kensington Palace, never loud or imposing, but always there. Yet, when Edith passed away, her family uncovered something entirely unexpected. Something that would change their understanding of her life forever. Hidden beneath her bed was a small box filled with letters and papers, each envelope carefully sealed and addressed. As her family sifted through these forgotten documents, tears welled up, not over wealth or secrets, but because they finally glimpsed the hidden depths of Edith's world, a world she had quietly built away from royal spotlights. What was this concealed truth that shook them so deeply? What stories lay beneath the surface of this humble woman's life inside the palace? The answer begins here. Edith Turner, now in her late 60s, held one particular letter with hands that trembled slightly. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, and embossed with the royal crest. She had never seen anything quite like it. Her name was penned carefully in blue ink, each letter precise and deliberate. Inside, the letter was brief but powerful. It was an official invitation to join the live-in staff at Kensington Palace, with an urgent request to begin immediately. Edith was stunned. Despite having passed 3 interviews, she had never actually met Princess Kate. Her daughter Jane stared at the letter in disbelief, wondering why the Duchess of Cambridge had handpicked her mother for such a role. 2 days later, Edith stood quietly in her modest bedroom, suitcase open on the bed as she carefully folded each piece of clothing. She then reached for a small wooden box, hidden away beneath her wardrobe for years. For a moment, her eyes softened as she gently placed it inside her suitcase and closed it with a soft snap. Minutes later, a taxi pulled away from her family home. Her old life began to fade, replaced by the unknown chapters waiting inside those palace gates. The sleek black car glided through the imposing iron gates of Kensington Palace. Edith sat stiffly, hands folded tightly on her lap. Her outfit was modest: a navy skirt, crisp white blouse, and sensible shoes. Yet nothing could prepare her for the grandeur that awaited. The gravel crunched under the tires as the palace loomed, a silent testament to history and tradition. A butler opened the door with quiet ceremony, greeting her warmly and informing her that Her Royal Highness was expecting her. Heart-pounding, Edith stepped out into a world she had only glimpsed from afar. Inside, the palace breathed with centuries of quiet dignity. Marble floors gleamed under soft sunlight filtering through tall windows, gilded frames lined the walls, and servants passed by with courteous nods but little conversation. Edith was led to a modest room overlooking the garden, simpler than she imagined, but peaceful nonetheless. The very next morning changed everything. Without fanfare or formality, Princess Kate appeared in the hallway, greeting Edith with a warm, genuine smile. She expressed how glad she was to have Edith join the household. Still stunned, Edith curtsied quickly, barely able to believe this moment was real. From the outset, Kate made it clear she wasn't interested in rigid protocol. She wanted Edith to be herself, no pretenses necessary. At first, Edith nodded, unsure what this truly meant, but gradually she began to understand. She threw herself into her work, quietly dusting, organizing, and managing small tasks, with a meticulous care that went unnoticed by many but appreciated by all, and working steadily without complaint. The staff began to rely on her not just for housekeeping, but for the serenity she brought with her, a calm that eased tensions without words. Princess Kate noticed this too. After a long, draining public engagement, Kate found Edith arranging fresh flowers in a hallway. Kate remarked quietly that Edith was always present, always reliable. Edith smiled softly, admitting she supposed she was. That simple exchange led to something unexpected. A quiet friendship blossomed in the palace's hidden corners. After the others had gone to bed, Kate would sometimes join Edith in the staff kitchen, where Edith brewed a cup of tea without fuss. They would sit together at a small table, sharing conversations Kate rarely had with anyone else. Edith never interrupted. She simply listened. Their talks became a cherished ritual, sometimes brief, sometimes long, but always intimate. After stressful meetings or exhausting days, Kate would seek Edith out, who might be dusting shelves or folding linens, always working, always quietly present. One rainy evening, Kate asked a question that caught Edith off guard. Did she have any dreams? Edith paused mid-fold, then answered thoughtfully that dreams change with time. Some fade away, while others find their way back unexpectedly. Kate didn't press further. Edith returned to her work, but her hands seemed to linger just a moment longer than usual. Later, in the quiet of her room, Edith sat by her desk with her notebook open. She wrote carefully, then gazed out at the rain-blurred window, closing her eyes as if recalling a distant memory. Edith insisted she was fine after the fall, refusing an ambulance despite the pain. But word traveled fast. By midday, Princess Kate had already been informed. That afternoon, a private doctor arrived at the palace with a clear directive. Edith needed total rest, no exceptions. Suddenly, the steady presence that had been a constant in the palace was gone. No more neatly folded napkins, no more delicate flower arrangements. Edith's room remained exactly as she had left it, untouched and quiet. A small vase of tulips sat wilting on her nightstand, a silent reminder of the absence that was beginning to echo through the halls. Whispers started to ripple among the staff. Some guessed she had returned home to recover. Others thought she might be hospitalized. But a few murmured darker suspicions. Was something more troubling being kept from the public? The tabloids wasted no time seizing on the mystery. Headlines questioned the whereabouts of the royal housekeeper and speculated on whether the disappearance was linked to palace secrets. The official palace response was swift but vague. Edith was convalescing under close medical care. They thanked the public for their kind messages, but declined to release photos, interviews, or updates. The silence only deepened the intrigue. Inside the palace, Kate's visits to Edith's room became regular but discreet. She never mentioned Edith's absence in public, but those who observed Kate noticed a subtle change. Her mornings grew more solitary, her walks through the palace gardens longer and more thoughtful. There was a weight in her gaze, a quiet sadness she could not fully conceal. One afternoon, Kate was spotted arriving alone at a solicitor's office in London. She stayed for over an hour and left without speaking to anyone. The reason for this visit remained a secret, adding another layer of mystery to the story. Edith's daughter gripped the order of service, fingers trembling. The cover read simply, Edith May Turner, A Life of Quiet Grace. As the ceremony began, Kate rose to speak. Her words were measured, full of respect and warmth. She spoke of Edith's dignity, her kindness, and the inspiration she provided simply through her steadfast support and quiet listening. She gave more than anyone could ever know, Kate said softly, voice faltering slightly, as the chapel fell into stillness. She will be deeply missed, not just because she worked for our family, but because she stood by us. Outside the chapel, reporters were stunned. The royal housekeeper was being honored with a dignity usually reserved for those in the highest ranks. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know the story of Edith Turner. After the funeral, Jane returned to her mother's flat to collect Edith's belongings. The space was immaculate, everything folded, labeled, and carefully arranged, as if Edith had prepared for this moment long ago. While going through a drawer, Jane found something unexpected: a wooden box tucked away at the back of a wardrobe, wrapped in an old scarf. Attached to the underside was a small brass key. She stared at it for several moments, unsure whether to unlock its secrets. That night, sitting alone at her dining table, Jane finally turned the key. The box clicked open. Inside, a folded envelope lay on top, written in Edith's own handwriting and marked, "For my family when I am gone." Jane's breath caught as she unfolded it. Meanwhile, far away in Kensington Palace, Princess Kate placed a single white rose on her windowsill, her thoughts hidden but heavy. The world had questions, but the answers were nestled within that small, locked box. Though not large, the box felt heavy in Jane's hands. Lifting the lid, she was greeted by a gentle scent of lavender and the sight of neatly tied bundles of paper. The first was a collection of letters, dozens of them, each carefully penned and sealed with the royal crest Jane recognized immediately. These were letters from Kensington Palace itself. Jane opened the first letter, dated more than 5 years earlier. It began simply, "Dear Edith," in unmistakably familiar handwriting, "Princess Kate's." In the letter, Kate expressed heartfelt thanks for Edith's quiet counsel, acknowledging how much Edith's steady presence had anchored her during difficult times. Jane's eyes widened as she took in each carefully chosen word. The next letter spoke not of fairy tales, but of a very real kind of magic: Edith's unique ability to bring grace and strength to the palace every single day. Kate admitted she had stopped believing in magic until she saw Edith's gentle power in action, quietly reminding her that such wonder still exists. Each letter carried the same tone: gratitude, admiration, and warmth. Not the cold formality of royalty, but the genuine affection of one person for another. Beneath the letters, Jane found a stack of official documents. Her hands shook as she sifted through them. Financial records, legal papers, and documents bearing the seal of a royal charity. The truth began to reveal itself. Princess Kate had done more than offer kind words. She had made Edith a true partner in a discreet royal trust. This trust supported scholarships, children's hospitals, and orphanages. Edith wasn't just a beneficiary. She was a silent partner, with shares that had grown steadily over time. The sum was staggering, over £7 million. There was one last secret waiting at the bottom of the wooden box, a final envelope, carefully marked in Edith's familiar handwriting, addressed to Jane's children. After the funeral, Jane handed this precious letter to her teenage daughter, Amelia, who clutched it with nervous anticipation. That evening, gathered together in quiet reverence, Amelia finally broke the seal and unfolded the thick parchment. The message inside was simple, yet carried the weight of a lifetime. Edith believed deeply in the power of small, quiet acts of kindness. In a world of rigid protocols and guarded secrets, Edith was a sanctuary. She never attempted grand solutions or loud proclamations. Her power was found in quiet care. Whether it was leaving a freshly brewed cup of tea in just the right place, offering a gentle smile at a moment of stress, or simply being present so no one felt alone. Edith's kindness radiated softly but steadily. This was the kind of magic that didn't dazzle in public, but grounded a household. It was a rare kind of love, the sort that makes a place feel like home, even under the unyielding glare of public attention. Edith's journey reminds us that true impact isn't always heralded with fanfare. Many of the people who quietly shape our lives do so without asking for applause or recognition. She never boasted about the letters from Princess Kate or the substantial trust fund she was given. Instead, Edith lived in humility, her greatest joy found in serving others. Only after her passing did her family learn about the life she had built behind closed doors. The letters, the documents, and the money were part of the story, yes, but what mattered most was the kindness she offered daily, a warmth that brought hope and comfort to those around her. She was a small but vital thread in a much larger tapestry. Even Princess Kate, burdened by royal duties and the unrelenting spotlight, found solace in Edith's presence. That simple photo on her desk, Edith smiling softly in the gardens, showed a woman whose greatest achievements were not in grand gestures, but in steady, quiet devotion. The palace staff still speak of her with reverence. When Kate passes by the places Edith once worked, she pauses. A silent nod to a woman who transformed lives without asking for thanks? When Edith left this world, the palace felt emptier, colder. The staff whispered her name not to gossip, but because her absence was profoundly felt. Amid all the opulence and ceremony, it was Edith's steady kindness that many treasured most. The world remembers Edith for what she gave, but those who truly knew her saw something deeper, a stillness, a decency, a capacity to make people feel seen without a single word raised in her defense. She never sought the spotlight. She simply showed up, cared deeply, and lived with quiet dignity. And in the end, that was more powerful than any title. The contrast between this star's journey and Edith's quiet legacy reminds us that success and impact come in many forms, each with its own struggles and triumphs. Through it all, the human story remains, of love, loss, resilience, and the enduring search for meaning beyond fame.